Hey, welcome from the logo. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Kirby. That's Colton and Riley over there on your screen. We're going to talk a little bit about the Blazers and their losing streak that they're on. But we're also going to talk about some optimism, some hope for the future. Colton, there was a little bit of good news that came out today that you told us about. You want to expand on that?
Of course I do. So, starting off, before we get into anything, the end of the last podcast, I said a phrase. Shout out Todd. Okay. So, I want to just point everyone in the direction of the back. It's a little far away. I've been needing to spruce up, and slowly but surely I will. My area when I film this podcast, right? Thanks to my friend Todd, I'm starting right here. We got some beanie babies in the background or plushes, whatever you want to call them. We got Rip City Ball. We got Blazers signage. I mean, we're growing. We're coming. Okay, it's coming through. It's gonna look better. We're getting there. Okay, now on to the topic at hand. Positivity, positivity, positivity. That's gonna be my message all season to all the mopey, sad people out there. Starting off, we got Malcolm Brogdon, Scoot Henderson nearing a return. Could be this week for both of them. That they're both desperately needed. Malcolm, the team really needs scoring and just a steady hand to calm everything down. Brogdon can provide that. Shooting has been a major issue, and the team also needs some passing, which Scoot can do. Scoot provided that. He was providing that before he left. He had 7 assists in 20 minutes in that game that he left with an ankle sprain. So positivity, and I'll get more into that after you guys touch on the return of Brogdon and Scoot.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the mopey Blazer fan, you're talking about me, and you can just at me next time. That's fine. But I mean, that's where I'm at. I am somewhat optimistic for the future. I mean, when you talk about where we're going and everything, I'm totally on board with that. But what we're seeing right now is really a low point in my experience as a Blazer fan. I mean, this is a bad basketball team over the last few games. And it's not just that they're unbalanced. It's not just that they need more scoring. Those are pieces of it, but they also just don't communicate. I feel like the coaching is kind of a mess. I mean, you talked about how we need scoring. We also need rebounding and assists and steals and blocks, because we got outperformed in all of those categories last night by the Oklahoma City Thunder. They outplayed us at the end of the third quarter. We were over at our parents' house, me and Kirby, and I turned to him and I said, like, they're on track for this to be a 135-90 game. And then I thought, well, that's never how it works. Things don't ever actually go like on track. They're going to bring in their bench players, and it's going to end up being like 120-100 or something. I was only 2 points off. They got 134 points. And looking at the plus minuses, they have tons of guys that are plus 26, plus 23, and we have guys that are minus 37 with Mays in particular. And that's horrendous. That's a basketball team that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Now, the good news that you're going to get to is that that's not the long-term prognosis. That's just these last few games. But it's been rough, and we need a lot of help. And it's not just more shots. We need a complete rethinking of the way that this team plays basketball.
Yeah, I don't know if I really agree with that. I think that you pretty much had to expect this going in. Any reasonable person would expect this with a complete blow up and rebuild. And then not only a blow up and rebuild, but your best player tears the shit out of his thumb in the first game. Your rookie that you're hinging the whole rebuild on goes down with a knee injury after 5 games. The best veteran presence on the team, Malcolm Brogdon, goes down with an injury, the guy that was keeping you in games. So there's been a lot going against the Blazers to start the season. Robert Williams going down with a season-ending and who knows, career-threatening knee injury potentially. He's had just knee injury after knee injury. Prayers up for Rob. I hope he gets better. I hope he gets right. I hope he has a good career going forward. The I don't think it's going to look this bad for the rest of the season. I think they're in a particular spot right now that not even through the rebuild would they expect to be here with the pieces that they had going out this early. But the good news is they're not all season-ending injuries. We're expecting Scoot back soon. We're expecting Brogdon back soon. Anthony should be back within the next month, hopefully. And when you get those three pieces out there, I think it's going to look a lot different. They're not going to be championship contenders. They're not going to be making any deep playoff runs this year, but I think they're going to be a lot more competitive. I think those guys out there are going to take some of the pressure off guys like Shaden Sharp and maybe Ayton, and allow those guys with that pressure relief to flourish a little bit more. Hopefully they'll get a little bit more space to operate and be able to do their thing rather than having have to shoulder so much of the team. And I think it's just going to look a lot better than it looks now. I think right now it looks particularly bad, but there is no denying that it looks bad. I don't think you can blame the coaches or the system, or I don't think you need to rethink the team. I think it's pretty obvious that it's just we're in a rebuild, and all of our best pieces, or most of them, a good majority of them, are hurt right now.
You know, the rethink of the team is on the way. That's what's happening right now, and it takes time, sadly. Well, a lot of people want it done now, but one, that game was kind of an anomaly. The Thunder hit a lot of threes. Some of them were wide open. I'll give it that. Some of them weren't wide open. They were hand in their face, falling down, and they went in.
61% from three. That is crazy.
The Thunder are a great team, and that's why I love that this happened against the Oklahoma City Thunder for a reason. Kirby, I don't even need to go into the fact that I agree with everything you said about the injuries. The Blazers were already going to be bad this season, okay? And, when you lose half of your, 4 out of your top 8 players, and almost all of them are the top of those 8, that's going to look bad. That's going to look even worse. You were already going to be a rough team, and then this just happened at the perfect time, right? This was a blowout for sure. But the Blazers have been playing close. They have been playing way better defense than we've seen in the past up to this point. It's not a whole season, but a 12-game sample size before this last game, the 13th game. Here's why I like that it was against the Thunder. The Thunder have been an up-and-coming team for a couple years now. Their whole rebuild started with the Wave, okay? And they've been kind of rebuilding. What did they do after the Wave? They traded away Paul George. They traded away Russell Westbrook. The Thunder have been dealing with, so I looked up their roster 2 years ago, okay? And they have some familiar names in here, such as, SGA. They got Dort on the roster. But the rest of their roster is pretty laughable. They got Pushevsky as well, okay? The legend, okay? The rest of it's completely overhauled, and almost all of it is young players, young talent. Players like Jalen Williams. Both Jalen Williams is on the Thunder.
Where's J-Dub? I just noticed he's not on the box charts. Is he hurt?
Oh no, I'm pretty sure he played last night, didn't he? Did he not?
I don't see him on the box charts, or
Maybe
the box score. Yeah, he's out for Sunday's game. Wait, that's one of the Jalen's band. This gets confusing here.
Yeah, one of them played. I think it was the one that's not. It's not J-Dub that played, but
yeah, Will.
J Will, right?
Yeah, it looks like he's out with a hip. J-Dub.
But the Thunder have rebuilt from 2 years ago. They won 22 games. They were 14th in the Western Conference and won 22 games that season. And they, their whole roster. I could read the names off of here. Moses Brown. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Darius Baisley, Diallo, George Hill, and Al Horford. They didn't stay around there long. Theo Maledon, Darius Miller, Mike Muscala. That was their roster. Isaiah Roby. Like, you just go down the line. None of them are there. The turnover happens quickly in the NBA. But my point is, the Thunder are what we need to look forward to in the future if the draft comes along, what we expect it to. The Thunder had some good young pieces back then. They had SGA, they had Dort. They added to that with Chet. They got lucky, and Chet has blossomed like what I thought he was going to do before this season. I knew he was in for, and he's been great starting off. But this is what Blazer fans should be kind of hoping and looking forward to.
But
These are going to be.
they don't really have the picks OKC does, to be fair, right?
Well, I mean, okay, so thank you. You perfectly set into my next piece. So this season,
That's Blazers, what I do. I'm the host.
You did perfect. The Blazers have 2 first-round picks. Most likely, the Blazers are gonna miss the playoffs. Let's just say that. So the Blazers have their own first-round pick, but they also have the Golden State Warriors first-round pick. Golden State has lost 6 in a row, and they're like 1-7 at home, something crazy like that.
Ooh.
And Draymond's choking people out. Clay is a shell of his former self. Steve Kerr is pretending he doesn't see Draymond choking people out and enabling the whole team. And Steph is out with an injury. That pick is top 4 protected. So coming full circle, the last draft for the Thunder, they picked up Chet Holmgren and J-Dub the year before because they had 2 lottery picks. The Blazers could be in a very similar situation with Golden State having a late lottery pick and they have their own lottery pick. They kind of completed their core with those 2 lottery picks with J-Dub and Chet. The Blazers could do the same thing. They kind of have pieces already. They would get 2 lottery picks. We just got to hope that Golden State misses the playoffs. So it's going to happen. It's going to take time. We're kind of where the Thunder were a couple of years ago, but look at the Thunder now. Let's hope that's what it looks like for the Blazers.
Just a quick correction as the host. Curry did come back in the last game.
And they lost.
Yeah, they lost, but he had 25 in his return. So if he's back, I don't know if I see the Warriors pick turning into a lottery pick if Curry's healthy. But they're having to rely on him a lot, and he does tend to go down with injuries if he has to really shoulder the load. So we'll see, I suppose.
Yeah, I am optimistic in some ways because I'm excited to see what happens when some of these guys start coming back. We haven't really got to see the young core that we were promised, honestly. But I still do have concerns about the way that they're playing basketball because whoever's out there, someone should have been trying to, either score or get fouled. And that would just what hasn't been happening the last few games. I mean, again, Ayton had 2 free throws, and it's just not to just dog on Ayton again, but it's just a symptom of the fact that the team just doesn't seem like they know what they're doing. And part of that is the pieces, but I mean, they still had a few guys. Sharp's still there, Grant's still there, and Ayton's still there, and none of them looked good last night. So, Grant looked okay, but he couldn't handle what OKC was throwing at him. So it definitely is concerning. I mean, you would hope that those guys would step up, and I mean, with no Anthony, no Scoot, no Robert Williams, you would imagine that would mean Ayton would take that opportunity to be the man, and instead he just gets smaller. He doesn't rise to the occasion. He shrinks away from it. And Sharp is still young, so I'm not going to put that on him at this point. Last night was not a particularly good night for him either, but we also kind of gave up. I felt like in that game, I mean, those guys, most of them only played 20, 24 minutes because we just gave up. And then our backup guys got killed by their backups just as bad as the starters did. So it was a rough night to be a Blazer fan. I have some optimism, but also some pretty serious concerns about even the pillars of this team.
Quick question: Is Olivier Sarr, is he like Alex's Sarr's brother or related in some way? Okay.
Yeah,
that's an interesting connection there too. Got the Olivier Sarr for the Thunder. Brothers, Alex Sarr, who might end up being the number 1 overall pick. I think he's slated there in a lot of mock drafts. Blazers would have a little bit of falling to do, but it's early in the season. They're going to be competing with Wimby and
The
Kate
Wizards.
Kate Cunningham and Jordan Poole and those teams. I think all those teams have potential to maybe get it together more than the Blazers. So we'll see how the tank race goes as the season unfolds.
And it's not always fun to focus all your attention on the draft and when the season's, halfway through and you're like, all right, let's look at the draft. But it is kind of fun to just think about the future and have the promise is there. Like you can hold that hope. Oh, what if we win the number one pick? Last season, when we were live at the draft lottery and the Blazers moved up into the top 3, that was one of the most exciting things I can remember. And we were buzzing, thinking we could have had Wemby. It felt like it could happen at that point, right? And that always is a fun thing in sports when you feel like it could happen. A big moment could happen. So, yes, it's not always fun to just tank a whole season away, but the Blazers have an opportunity to add to the core. They need to find the right guys. This isn't the strongest draft, unfortunately, and that sucks to hear. Next season, and you don't want to tank for this many years in a row, but next season it has the real prize with a guy by the name of Cooper Flagg, and he is a monster. But the Blazers are putting themselves in position to add to the young core. It just comes at the expense of right now, and it's not always fun. But they're in a good spot for the future. Let's just put it that way. Even if Ayton isn't the guy, you're not really hurt with what's happening with that. You want to see what you have in Sharp, see what you have in Scoot, see what you have in Ant, see what you have in all your extra young pieces, all your wings, your Tumani Kamaras, all the young guys on the roster. And you can build the roster from there, see who sticks. I think Sharp is being over relied on just because there's nothing like to distribute the ball and be a playmaker. Because like Mays had a really bad game, and I'm not saying I count on Mays to be a superstar because he's like your 4th string point guard, but he had an awful game. And Bouye is not playing because of how awful he was when he was playing.
Where's Repair? Oh, Repair did get minutes last night. I was thinking of that after the last game, why they went with Bouye instead of Repair, but it looks like he finally got some minutes in the last game.
Yeah. So Shaedon, I think he's played the most minutes in the NBA, which he's young, but he's kind of in that awkward phase of trying to be a ball handler and a distributor and kind of learning in live game action. So when he has a game with 9 turnovers or whatever, like he had a couple games ago, that's from the lack of point guard play. That's from the injuries. He's being asked to do a whole lot right now. So it's very hard to make an assessment on a player when this is kind of the result of the roster. You wouldn't expect to be down 3 point guards. That's just how it's been this season. And when Mays has a bad game, it compounds because nobody else is really that guy that can distribute and be a ball handler.
Like I mentioned, hopefully when the Blazers get Scoot Henderson and Anthony Simons and some of those ball handlers and primary playmakers, that will allow Shaedon Sharp to go back to the wing where he seems like he's the most effective there, hitting threes with a little bit of space, a little bit of attention away from him, crashing the boards, and occasionally putting the ball in his hands and letting him go get a bucket, but not demanding it of him, 15, 20 times a game where he is just going to pile up the turnovers and the missed shots. What question for you, Riley? What do you want to see moving forward for the Blazers, at least let's say in the next month or two? What are some of the top things that you would really like to see from particular players or the team in general in order to be more satisfied with where they're at?
Yeah, I mean, if I was coaching this team or, advising the coaching, I really think that they need to focus more on trying to get quality over quantity. We've talked about that in a few contexts. But I mean, we're in a situation right now where we don't really have shooters, honestly. We have Shaedon, who's a pretty good shooter, and Anthony's out. And Scoot's not really a shooter when he comes back, honestly. And so, I mean, like last night, we had 3 guys, Jeremy Grant, Jabari Walker, and Duop Reith, who took a combined 12 3-pointers, and they combined and made 2 of them. So, I mean, that's like where we're getting our volume of shots, is these big guys taking threes and not making them at any kind of high level. And so I want to see a lot more inside play. I mean, we have DeAndre Ayton. He's huge. We've talked about this kind of ad nauseum, but how are we not getting him the ball in his spot? It's really kind of unforgivable, and it's what they need to focus on. So what I want to see is I want to see them try to slow it down a little bit and not try to play like they're young, hot shooting team, because they're just not. And they need to slow down. They need to see if they can teach some of these young guards how to get the ball to Ayton and Grant down lower, and see if they can go to work. So I think a lot of it's just that's what I think they should be focusing on in practice, is just trying to figure out how to get guys the ball in a good spot, to where they can make something happen, and not trying to be such a fast shooting team, because there's really nobody other than Shaedon playing regularly right now that can shoot at a high clip.
And you'd hope if they do get those guys in spots where they're able to be more successful, they'll be easy buckets, but also it'll collapse the defense a little bit and allow some of those guys who aren't maybe the best shooters in the world just a little bit more space, and those percentages will increase just a little bit. Colton,
And get
same
them to
question.
the line. Get them to the line. We're not taking nearly enough free throws.
Colton, same question to you. What do you want to see over the next month or two to be really happy with where the Blazers are headed?
Yeah. I'll answer this question, and then I got a question for both of you after, you can answer it too. But so I just want to see more cohesion. I think that we knew it going in. This was an all new team, a young team, an all new team. We talked about the shooters early on. That was going to be an issue, and then you lose your best shooter. That makes it an even bigger issue. And then you lose Brogdon, who's your other main shooter. I mean, the injuries just keyed in on one position, and a position where you got a lot of the shooters. So you're seeing a lot of the impacts of that. But I think as the players come back, other players might go down with injury too. But the turnovers, I think it's measured in turnovers. I feel like the turnovers have been a massive problem all year. Even if you're getting up a bad shot, at least you can crash the boards. The Blazers have been a good offensive rebounding team this season. Jabari Walker, Ayton has been getting offensive rebounds as well. That is an identity to build on when you don't have shooters. So if you're at least getting shots to the rim without turning the ball over, I think that's a measure of running an offense and becoming more cohesive. So I want to see less turnovers as we move forward, as we get some of these point guards back.
I'll answer my own question real quick, and then I'll let you ask yours. The two things that I would really like to see, both you guys briefly touched on them. Well, I guess maybe Riley it was one of his main points, but I want to see health. I want to see Simons and Scoot back, particularly Scoot. Really Simons, though, too. And I want to see growth, particularly from Scoot Henderson. And I want to see him start to develop some confidence and some chemistry with these guys. And then number 2, DeAndre Ayton. I want to see something from him. I got to see more than what I've seen so far this season. I got to see more scoring. I got to see more assertiveness. Maybe with the point guards and the shooters come back. Hopefully it'll allow him a little bit more space to operate. Hopefully he'll develop a little bit more comfort in the offense. I want to see him go on a little bit of a run with double-doubles, more hefty double-doubles, not the 9 points, 10 rebounds, double-doubles. I want to see him getting closer to 20 and 10, 17, 18 and 10, somewhere in there. And at the very least, he would up his trade value for going forward.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, again, the money doesn't really hurt you right now. He's just, if he's not going to be the player moving forward, then it's just filling in for now. But I think some of that is issues with the distributing as well. So let's talk about my question really quick. It's going to be a nice, fun little game. And I think we're going to have kind of a similar hope or answer or guess. When does the losing streak end? It's simple. We don't want to have a historic slide, do we? I hope that when Brogdon and Scoot come back, stabilizes a little bit. But
Yeah.
looking at the schedule, let's just give you the next 5 games, and we'll kind of hope against hope that something happens. So next game's at Phoenix. That's kind of Phoenix hasn't been that great to start off the season because their health has been bad, but they have Kevin Durant.
They demolished the Blazers in the preseason a couple times too, which I know it doesn't say a lot, but they have a little bit of familiarity, and I don't know if the Blazers are really going to be able to surprise them with much.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle. So we got at Phoenix. The next, I'll keep going, versus Utah, at Milwaukee, the first Dame revenge game, but it's at Milwaukee's house, at Indiana, who's been playing really well, scoring a ton of points, at Cleveland, who is good. They've actually started out pretty slow, but already kind of destroyed us. So what do you guys think? Do we see any wins in there?
Well, hopefully Scoot will be back by at least the Milwaukee game. Looking at his timeline, I think they said 2 weeks on the 10th. That game's on the 26th. So hopefully he would be back in time to get completely cooked by Dame Dalla. I still don't think they're going to win that game. The Indiana one, man, Halliburton's been on a tear to start the season. That one could also be pretty dang tough. I hope, though, once you start getting down 7-8 games away, then hopefully you have all 3 of the guards back. And once that happens, if everyone, as long as there's no other catastrophic injuries or setbacks, I think you're going to get one of those games there in like the 8 or 9, 10 range. Utah, Dallas, Golden State, all good teams.
You're gonna go for that long of a losing streak?
Maybe they'll be able to beat the Clippers, and although I think they're gonna gain some steam too. So I don't know, man. Looking at the schedule, it's hard to really see where they're gonna get that dub. But it'll probably happen in just some random game where someone gets hot or some team is just not shooting the ball well. That's how the NBA works. There's a lot of parity there, even for bad teams. They get hot for a game and score. So I'll say, what are we at now? Is it 7 or 8?
What?
7.
7, yeah.
7 in a row. I'll say
pick your game that the Blazers get the next dub.
Okay, I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna be an optimist here. I'm gonna go Utah. I'm gonna say they
at home, right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they get that Utah dub.
Riley, what about you?
Yeah, I'm looking down the schedule. I think James Harden's gonna blow it, and we're gonna get the game at LA.
Thanks. So you're predicting a what? We have 7 losses right now in a row. 8, 9,
like 13,
10, 11, 12, 13 game losing streak.
Yeah, it's gonna be right in there. We're either gonna get that LA game or we're gonna get one of the 2 Utah games that's on either side of it. But I think we're gonna lose at Phoenix. I think we're gonna lose versus Utah. I think Dame's gonna cook us. I think Halliburton's gonna cook us. I think Cleveland's got us. I think we'll probably win one of the 3 games versus Utah that we're playing in the next month. And then hopefully that LA game. But other than that, I see any wins on there.
You hope at that point too you'll have some of those guys back, and they were a lot more competitive with Brogdon on the team. Let's just face facts. I mean, that guy has kept them in games. He was the guy with the ball in his hands like 75% of the time, making the plays, hitting the shots. Once he comes back, I think things will definitely settle down a little bit. And then hopefully Scoot will be around too, and that'll provide kind of the spark and the optimism and lift up the team a little bit. And then once you get Simons back, who knows? They could look completely different.
Yeah, but that's like at least a month away, right? That we have.
Well, those two should be coming back this week. So
Yeah, that'll make a major impact. I don't think it'll be a 13 game losing streak. I hope not, because then you're going to start getting into historically bad once you start getting to that point. I think that the Blazers are going to lose at Phoenix. They're going to lose at home to Utah in a close game, especially, if Brogdon and Scooter back, they might win that one. I think
and then they're going to win in Milwaukee,
they're
right?
going to roll into Milwaukee and lose promptly by 40 points. But I'm predicting a win at Indiana. Indiana's been playing really well. I just feel like it's going to be one of those games where the Blazers get going. Indiana hasn't played that well on defense early on, my memory serves. I think they're going to win at Indiana, and that's going to be, a big win for them. And I think they're going to promptly lose at Cleveland, but pick up maybe a couple wins after that and start kind of turning things around at Utah, at LA, and then they got a homestand after that. So the players are going to start coming back. Probably going to lose a couple more in a row, in my opinion. I mean, they could win this Utah at home. I just have this weird thought that it's going to slip, but I could be wrong. So let's hope that it's not 13 game losing streak. That is pretty historic. Pretty bad.
It's a tough road trip. I mean, once we get through that Utah game at home, it's a long trip with a lot of teams that are playing pretty well. We could very easily lose out that road trip.
Definitely.
Quick note on Tyrese Halliburton. Before the last game, he kind of had a stinker against the Magic, but he had the 2 games before that 32 assists and 0 turnovers. In the 2 games before that, you add on the 2 games after that, 45 assists, 4 turnovers. That dude is figuring something out with his team. I saw in an interview he said that he attributes the way he plays basketball and his knowledge of the game to video games. Shout out NBA 2K. That's training a whole new generation of young basketball players.
Yep.
Are we done?
Are
we done? Everyone's done after that, huh?
Nothing to say. Mic drop on 2K.
Yeah, that's how we should close out every podcast, talking about 2K. I haven't played it in a while. Have you played any of the new ones?
So what I usually do is I never buy them. I wait until about almost a year after they've been out. They make them free if you pay for PlayStation Online or whatever. And so I just download it because it's free. Why not? I played for a couple weeks and then fall off of it when they put an actual commercial on the My Player part where you're trying to make your player and they're putting an actual physical commercial in the video game, and then you're like, all right, this is pretty predatory. I'm gonna not support this. Stop playing. But
God, you remember back in the day, back when we were in high school, we had our My Players. We'd meet up every day and start talking about, oh well, my player has 5 straight triple doubles.
And you'd simulate to 2040, and they were 50 years old and won MVP 7 years in a row still. Yeah.
Do you remember that one time we were building a dynasty and we were simulating all the seasons and doing trying to rebuild? I remember one time we I can't remember the specifics, but we basically traded James Harden for or traded a pick for James Harden, and then we traded some crap for the pick back. We were figuring out a way to fleece the system and just completely stack the roster back when Harden was a valuable asset.
That's what Joe's doing. You just watch.
He's doing an NBA 2K rebuild right now. The only problem is you can't skip the bad seasons where you try to go 0-82 and get the number 1 overall pick.
That's the theme of the season.
Through a simulated season right now, you guys. That's what we're trying to talk about here. This is a team when you're trying to lose and trying to get a good pick in the draft and you make it as bad as possible and then just hit a button and simulate. That year of time is what we're living against the Oklahoma City Thunder now.
The goal is to either go 82-0 or 0-82. Going anywhere in the middle is not worth it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.